rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's value she'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, paired the herds of years, and let her sow again.
Hello and welcome back to Fixing Frida. I'm going to call my what is it? I don't even know what year she is. Maybe someone out there knows what year she might be. I'll put a screenshot of her number, her serial number up in case somebody has access to that information. But my Model C, the free treadle, and I am going to start to tackle her very rusty bobbin winder here. Don't even know yet exactly how I'm going to work it, but you know, we'll take it one step at a time. She looks kind of greasy because I did just throw a whole wad of 𝐥𝐤𝐤 stuff on her just to get the surface dirt off, just to see what I have, and we have a lot of rust. So if I pull this back, I can see that whatever spring is in there, it is still working well. If I turn this, I can see that it is turning well. This is free. So even though she looks really rusty, she's still functioning, which is a good thing for me. So let me just get started with some disassembly here. Gonna try to find a bit that is the right size, and because she's so grungy, first I have to use a pick or something to clean out the little place where I need to stick my screwdriver bit in. Does not want to turn. Okay. Try it again with a little bit of leverage. I don't want to stab my hand. I've done that recently and it's no fun, so. There it goes. Sometimes just having a little bit of leverage, my gosh, that helps so much. Hello. It's been a few days and I want to tell you my tale of woe. There's been a couple setbacks on this machine. Not setbacks, but course changes, I would say. And the first thing was, I was about to walk you through disassembling and putting back together the bobbin winder. And I did do it, and it did come apart as a typical, you know, long bobbin winder would. But it was extremely rusty. The cogs were extremely rusty, and after I got it cleaned up, there was a lot of pitting and everything on them, and I was thinking, well, this would be an excellent time to demonstrate how I can nickel plate something, because I was thinking it was nickel plated. It was not nickel plated, it was chrome plated. And the problem with trying to do a nickel plating technique on a chrome plated part is that it doesn't work, and I ended up chrome plating my nickel anode, so that part of that nickel anode is now worthless. But also it took what was remaining of the shiny parts on it and took it away with some residual nickel mixed on it, and it ended up Frankenstein cogging, you know. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't beautiful. And so because there was so much rust pitting and everything in it, what I ended up doing is just getting a silver oil-based paint marker and coloring them in so that they would not want to rust any further, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do with them. So those cogs are going to look different. So that was a little setback. Then I did get like 4 different kinds of gold paint markers in, and I got my machine down and I was starting to try to figure out on some of the more discreetly placed decals to make it, to repair the images. And unfortunately, what it looked like is that someone really tried to repair the images. You could tell, obviously, that this was a not totally successful but good-hearted attempt to repair decals, which is not the vibe I go for. So between that and I was having a very difficult part feeling confident that I was getting all the dirt off this machine. It was very filthy, and every time, you know, I went through and cleaned everything, I was getting more and more dingies. And I really want my machines to be, you know, very clean by the time I'm done with them. And I was figuring at a certain point that I was just gonna have to clear coat over a layer of grime, because every time I got more off, there was more that appeared. So, change of course, going back to my original methods, which is she is stripped. She is stripped. Her little components are stripped, you know, and I am going to mask her off and give her a coat of primer so that I can get her on the way to be painted. We are going to pay tribute to her original peacocky-ness in design. I'm going with that. But it just was not working out with my original plan. And I know I can hear the collective screams of some people in the vintage sewing machine community, which are just going to have, you know, an apoplectic shock because of what I have done to this paint that had the decals and everything. But you know what? It's the way that I roll, and I think it's going to turn out beautiful this way. I think that instead of turning out with a machine that looks like, oh well, it's lovely, but she tried, I think that then I'll be able to get a machine that's like, wow, that's something amazing. So that's what I'm going for. So with that, I'm going to get my machine over to the table and start masking it off. The wheel, as usual, I'm going to mask off the outside and the centers so the paint doesn't get in here. The bobbin winder, I'm going to mask off all of the shiny steel parts, here. Her little belt guard and her little clutch wheel, those are good to go as is, except for, of course, this has holes that I will mask off the holes. So let me get everything over to the table and get that taped up, and I'm going to give her her first coat of my gray primer, my gray filler primer, just to get everything set so that that can dry overnight, and tomorrow I can get started with the fun part. Okay, so she is stripped. I mean, yeah, she is stripped obviously, but she is masked off. I have little rolls of paper towel in these holes where the presser bar and needle bar are going to go. She is blocked up with paper towels in there. I have her entire needle, or entire slides for her plates, masked off because you just don't want to deal with chipping paint off of those. Remember, the presser bar lifter could not come out because of the way that they pinned it, so I just have that masked off, but I did work with my Dremel tool and try to polish it up before I masked it, so I don't have to deal with that until after. And then down here below, let's see if I can turn on that light there, where I had to leave that shaft, I have it masked off, and at the ends, and I think we're ready. Everything else I'm going to just go ahead and primer up. Oh, and I didn't show you up here, hang on, you tip the camera back, up here in her nose, where just the end of the little shaft came through. I've just masked around that, and I'm going to spray the cavity that's left over. All right, so she is primered up. It is the evening, and I'm going to go inside and let her dry all night. And hopefully tomorrow I'll get a chance to come in and get her ready for her paint color. which will be I know I was going to show you my next steps, but let me show you the machine now. I think she's lovely. I got in a rush and did not video it because I just didn't know how I was going to hold the camera while I was doing this. This is my steps. It's an ombre with the darker blue at the bottom, to a turquoise, to a light misty green at the top, okay? So what I did is, from my primered machine, I took my primered machine down, lightly sanded it, made sure I had no, obscenely big chips or something that I needed to sand down. Then I coated, and I've done all my smaller pieces with just the plain turquoise, except the bobbin winder, which is a darker color because it's going to be positioned around here, okay? So then I painted the majority of the machine, my middle color. I'll come over here so you can see the back too. Once I got the majority of the paint of my middle color on, I used the top one, and then I did the bottom one. And I used a technique that I saw online of a way to kind of make sure that your paints didn't blend together, but I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, so I didn't record it, If anyone is interested, let me know, and I'll do another ombre machine later, because now that I know this technique works, now I feel like I could demonstrate it. But I think it turned out really nice. I just got it done earlier today, and I'm going to let it dry at least overnight before I get started trying to get her put back together again and decorating her. I do have, I do have her name and a couple more decorative decals that I'm probably going to put down here, but the paint is the real focal point of this machine, so I'm not going to get crazy busy with decals on it. At least that's my goal right now. So anyway, just thought I would show it to you. I think it turned out lovely. Good morning and welcome to Decal Morning. So, like I said before, I think that the showpiece on this machine is pretty much going to be the ombre paint job, okay? But what I have done is I've got on clear paper, I'm going to put the free on each side, and then because this is the number 5, I was kind of going with the Chanel number 5 type of idea. And so I've created a little bed decal that's similar font to Chanel number 5. It's the free number 5, Rockford, Illinois. So that's going to go down here. And this does have a white paper. These have clear paper, 2 different decal papers. And that's because if I put a clear decal paper down here on a dark color base, it's just going to disappear, whereas this is going to stay nice and bright white. So let me get started putting these on. When I was first planning the decorative items of this machine, I was going to go for a peacock theme. So I do have little peacock feathered decals. Once I get these on, if I feel like it needs a little flourish on each side, I'll look at maybe putting those on, but I'm going to start with these. One last thing I want to do. This is the front plate, and I've polished it up the best I can. But down here, there's big pieces where the chrome is just missing. If it was completely rusted, I have it buffed out as clean as I can. What I want to do is use a combination of a couple of these coordinating decals and my oil-based silver paint marker. And I'm going to just color over where the rust was. And this paint that I'm putting on is going to be covered in decal, so it's not going to be terribly obvious, I'm hoping. But I'm hoping that the paint, because it is an oil-based paint, is going to keep it from wanting to rust any further. That's my hope at this point. So now I'm going to start down here at the bottom and just try to place some of these little pretty peacock feather decals over it. I've been playing, and this is what I've come up with. I've got a peacock peeking in from the side here and a few feathers on the bottom, and that does cover those spots. It's not too matchy, you know, with the other, that it's still a little bit festive. I like it. I'm just trying to get this decal to lay nice and flat right around where I have a little piece of hardware right here. So let me do a little bit of secret cutting with my little X-Acto knife so it's going to lay nicer, and then I'm just going to let all of these decals dry for several hours before I come back in here and touch them. Hello, welcome back. It's been a few days since I did the decals, and I want to tell you a tale of woe again. I have a treadle cabinet over there that I was going to be using as my shop one, and I had to order a belt for it. I got the new belt. I was getting it all sized up because you have to add like that much. I use the poly belts. Popped this guy on there with the wheel, and the wheel is 2 different pieces that go on, just so I could size the belt. Now, I'm going to throw ahead of time. I have a rubber mat on my floor over here. I have a rubber mat on my floor over underneath my painting booth. I do not have a rubber mat on the floor over there. And after I got my belt size, when I went to pull my wheel off, because it's a 2-part wheel, chunk, pulled them off, this little piece fell on the floor. And a tiny little chip came off. So that day, and I'm just pulling my tape right now, I cleaned it up really quick, and very carefully put JB Weld on it, and I put a piece of tape on the back just to, keep it flush, and made sure everything was nice and level. I don't know if you can see in there, my little chip. So I'm pulling off my tape for the first time just to see how it's going to be. The little groove here, the little chip is right there. Right now it looks pretty good. That little groove is where the little clutch piece slides into. So I'm not going to know for sure how it works until I actually get everything assembled and get that clutch put back in. Right now it looks fairly flat. I'm thinking it's going to be fine. But things like that are just frustrating. But I use the JB Weld, which is made for the metal. It's supposed to have a drying time of 6 hours, a curing time of 12 to 18 hours. I let it go more than 24 hours. So hoping for the best. When it fell, it did put a couple little chips into the paint, which is not a big deal because I can touch up the paint. But that's my big issue. So I'm going to go ahead and keep going as usual, and when it gets to this point, if there's a problem, I'll deal with it then. I just thought I would point that out because, things happen. So it's clear coat day. I've got my clear coat. So I just realized that my battery is almost dead, so I'm just going to give you the quick rundown of the process here. Let me put something over here so that she doesn't get scratched. I tip her down. So this is what her paint looks like right now. I am using my Diamond Coat clear coat. Okay, so I got the clear coat on. I painted it with my foam brush. My battery's running low, so I didn't film the whole thing. I put clear coat on this wheel, on the belt guard. I also put clear coat over the front of this plate because I have the decals on it hiding the rust spots that are, you know, dremeled over and painted over, so I'm hoping that that's good. And I clear coated on my bobbin winder. So I'm hoping that everything else will dry well. I've got all the decals up here covered well. The one on the bottom plate, I have 2 coats on. And I am just going to walk away and let this dry. Because it seems like, you know, this is the machine that if something can go wrong, it will go wrong. So I want to give it every opportunity to completely cure before I even breathe on it again. So I will be back here probably in a couple more days. It has been a couple days since I put the clear coat on, and I just had to put this wheel on really quick just to make sure everything was going to function. And I'm very happy to say it does. This has the clutch engaged, you know, everything is turning as it should, which is not going to be a problem. The problem was going to be disengaging the clutch. So I'm uncranking that little screw right here, okay, which loosens it from this wheel. So now if I hold this wheel still, it still spins. And I am so pleased about that. I mean, even if that little piece had broken off and I hadn't been able to glue it back, it would probably still work just fine. But I just hate to see that. So we are all good. At this point, I think I am done with the painting and decorating process and ready to move on to the reassembly. So hope you join me for that video. Thanks a lot for watching.
I found an antique sewing machine, forgotten and alone. I touched her rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years, and let her sew again.